Bluff City Media presents Tigers Live with Francis Carlota. Join Francis after every Memphis Tiger game as he breaks down each matchup, player of the game, and upcoming games. Now, let's get to the show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Tigers Live. I'm your host, Francis Carlota, host of Tigers Live for Bluff City Media. The Memphis Tigers escape out of the frigid, cold FedEx Forum with a win against East Carolina, 74-70. Ice cold being the operative term that I'm probably going to say a lot during this show, because that's basically what Memphis was from the field. 25 for 61 from the floor, 41%, 6 of 23, 26%, 26.1% from three. Yeah, going against a team that is known for being poor on defending the three. They basically, and Memphis being one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country, it didn't show tonight at all. Memphis couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from deep, going only 6 for 23. And then the turnovers, again, turnovers just killing the Memphis Tigers on the offensive side, just absolutely killing them. So, look, Memphis gets a win. Obviously a good thing. You know, you'll get a smile from me because Memphis still got a win. Always better than a loss. I said it after North Texas. I will always take ugly wins over beautiful losses every single day of the week. Every day. And it's still a win at the end of the day. Memphis is now 3-0 in the AAC to start conference play. But this was there's still a lot of things to talk about. A lot of things that we can discuss here. So again, to everybody, thank you for joining Tigers Live. As you all know, I'll be joined by Roman Cleary in just a few moments. Once I see Roman join the stream, I will add him to the show. And then after Roman joins the show, and he'll have to do his press duties because he's at the FedEx Forum, we'll go to a commercial break, and then I'll be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Gabe Kuhn, on the other side of the commercial break to talk about this game, talk about the Tigers as a whole, and get his thoughts on what's going on with the Memphis Tigers. What's going on is still, again, a win, 74-70, but I see all in the chats. I see everybody. Shout out to Healing and Self-Love, way closer than it should have been. Yeah, absolutely. Way closer than it should have been. And I'm sure he'll get a similar thought from Roman. I see him that he has joined. So let me go ahead and add Roman to the stage. Roman, hello.
Hey.
What's going on?
Hi, Francis. How you doing, man?
Not well, Roman. Not doing well, man. My blood pressure is high. My heart rate is pounding, and I don't think it should be pounding against East Carolina on a Saturday afternoon, right? How are you feeling?
Yeah, that was an objectively hilarious basketball game. It just was. Yeah. It was an objectively hilarious game. It was weirdly predictable, though, as well, because Memphis, even when they took the 18-point lead, it never really felt like they were completely pulling away. And then we kind of saw what we saw manifest in the second half. Two consecutive, really 7-0 runs by East Carolina pretty early in the second half kind of really put this one in jeopardy. And I think the big separator from halves 1 to half 2 is that Memphis was just playing really, really sloppy basketball in the second half there. 10 turnovers in the second half compared to 6 in the first half there for Memphis. They're really lucky to get out of this one with a win for sure. The computer numbers have cooked either way, but at least for their sake, they won the game.
Yeah, absolutely. You're basically reading Timo's mind. He said this was a terrible game. This one will hurt the metrics. Yes, Timo. Yes, it will. It will hurt the metrics.
They're going to be like 40th in the net if they're lucky.
Goodness. Yeah, it definitely hurts, and as Timo said as well, echoing what you said, Roman. Go ahead.
See, this is why I don't want to see any Memphis fans complaining about the Tigers having bad computer numbers ever again. Never want to see it again, because this is why they play down to competition in the AAC. They just do. Like, playing these games to begin with is going to automatically hurt the Tigers' resume. It is what it is. But now, given the fact that you can't even win them handily like you should, it has to go down to the wire. This is the second straight American Athletic Conference game that Memphis has only won by 4 points. They beat North Texas 68-64, and they've now beaten East Carolina 74-70. Now, I think we all kind of brush the North Texas one to the side because North Texas is pretty easily the second best team in the league, one of the best defenses in college basketball, this and that. East Carolina is none of those things. They are a bad team, objectively bad. They're a terrible three-point shooting team. They're not really outstanding on either end of the floor, especially on the offensive side of things. They had no business staying within single digits of Memphis. Heck, they probably had no business staying within like 15 points of Memphis. This should have been a 20-plus point blowout, honestly. That was the expectation. I mean, if you can go to Florida Atlantic and beat them as bad as you did, you should be able to do the same to East Carolina at home. But it didn't happen, unfortunately, for the Tigers. And, yeah, I mean, it's a win, but in a way it feels like a loss because you're going to drop in the computers. I wouldn't even be shocked if you dropped the spot in the AP poll because of this. I don't see it happening because it just typically just isn't how the AP poll works, but that wouldn't shock me either.
I can't say it any better than you just did, man. That it was perfectly put. This shouldn't have happened, this type of game. I said it after North Texas that if all the people who were all calling doom and gloom that Memphis played it close against North Texas, those people needed to relax because that's a good team that Memphis played, and I think North Texas played well and they beat them. But if Memphis plays East Carolina and it's a close game like it was against North Texas, then I'll give some credence to the idea that there should be some level of concern about this team. And so I gotta back up what I said. I can't, flip-flop on y'all. There got to be some reason for concern from watching that performance. I see a lot of awesome comments in the chat from Skylar Weisberg, scrappy W for the boys. But if I'm honest, I don't know if I can tolerate another tale of two halves. We got a lot of work to do if we want to go far. W is a W at the end, though. Roman, was it it seemed like a tale of two halves, like you said, kind of deja vu with South Florida, right? I mean, were you getting those thoughts of is Memphis really going to blow this one like they did last year? Was that running through your head?
I mean, you were automatically getting that from the beginning, right? Because this was another snow game type situation, even though the roads weren't nearly as bad as they were last year, as evidence being I was actually able to make it to the FedEx Forum this time around. If you remember, I had to do Tigers Live from home for the South Florida game. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I mean, the attendance from the crowd was much better this time around. And the terrace level was actually closed off at the Forum, but still you had a pretty decent, amount of people at this game. So the environment, the atmosphere wasn't nearly as dead as it was in that USF game. I mean, it's not exactly a perfect, one-to-one comparison, but that was before the ball tipped off. The actual game itself definitely did parallel the USF game in a lot of ways. It paralleled even the Rice game in a lot of ways as well, because today was actually Kids Day at the FedEx Forum. And when Memphis lost to Rice last season, it was also Kids Day at the FedEx Forum. So maybe this is the Kids Day curse. I don't know.
Hey, maybe it is the Kids Day curse. What is that Michael Jordan meme? F them kids. Maybe that's the solution. I'm just kidding. Full jokes. But more good comments, kind of along the same lines too. Timo, the team just has to learn to put teams away when we have them down, up by 14.5. We have to push that to 20 plus, especially at home. Skylar said as well, we didn't deserve a W, to be honest. We should be lucky to get this one. Give ECU credit. They wanted it way more than we did. And so I'll ask you, Roman, it's the problems with the want to and the mentality of this team against lesser competition. It's going to be a common theme as we go through this AAC conference play. You've asked Penny these questions in post-game conferences multiple times up to this point. I'm sure it's going to get asked to him again in just a few moments. To you, man, what needs to change? Is it a mentality switch? Is it, I don't know if is it Penny needing to just constantly be on the players like he was going into FAU, or what is it for you that just needs to change for this Tigers team?
To me, this is a completely player-based problem right now, because every single bit of evidence that we picked up from Penny Hardaway over the past week is that he has been on this team pretty hard, especially over the turnovers. He told us during Wednesday's media availability that he literally set up a drill where for every time the turnover, a guard turned the ball over in practice, he would put a ball on a ball rack. And whenever that ball rack would fill completely up, the entire team would run 17s. So, I mean, that's just one of the examples of something that Penny has been doing to kind of, keep this team, try to keep them locked in. So I don't really think this is a Penny issue. This is a player mentality issue specifically based off of everything I've heard and what I've seen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I understand why people will be quick to blame Penny for these struggles. I understand why, but I think that's frankly a pretty lazy thing to just blanket statement that. I don't think this is on Penny. At some point you have to put the onus on these players. We've talked about it before, Roman, too. These are adults getting paid real money to play basketball. So at some point they have to get some accountability as well. I recognize they're younger adults. I understand that, but they should receive some level of accountability for being able to get up themselves to play these games and to not, let the intensity drop from one half to another half just because you're playing East Carolina. Again, this game should not have been close at all. Memphis still was up by a good amount throughout this game. Did ECU lead at any point today, Roman? I don't think they did. Did they?
No. Memphis led wire to wire. I believe that's the fourth game in a row they've led wire to wire. So that is still one of the positives of this game, if you want to have any.
Sure.
This is the fourth consecutive game where Memphis has led wire to wire. Obviously, that takes away a lot of context from what took place here, but that did happen. That did happen nonetheless.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Yeah, led wire to wire, but the game was tied down the stretch. So 6-1, half a dozen of the other, I guess.
I guess they didn't lead wire to wire if the game was tied. That's right. The game did get tied with 1:11 to go. I forgot about that.
Okay. Yeah. So, but ECU never led still either way. So, my point is, it's easy to quickly blame Penny for what's going on, but I don't think this is a Penny issue. That these players need to get up for these games and not let their energy levels dip. It's easier said than done, of course. It's human nature as well. That's what they'll have to battle. But at the same time, that's just still the case. But let's get positive a little bit, Roman. Give me your player of the game? I'll ask Gabe in a moment as well. But give me your player of the game today.
PJ Haggerty scored a game-high 25 points. If not for him, Memphis would have easily lost. Haggerty was one of the only players out there that I genuinely felt like was still kind of giving it his all, was still completely locked in. I mean, Haggerty lifted the Tigers out of so many bad situations in today's game that he was very vital for me.
Yep, I agree. It's got to be PJ. Let me find the comment. As Michael Stahls says here, PJ going perfect for his free throws, came in clutch as always. Otherwise, wow, not a good game for the net. Yes, not a good game for the net. Not a great game for the rest of the team either. PJ had 25, 7 for 16 from the floor, just 1 for 5 from 3. But overall, he was just your typical PJ Haggerty, being aggressive, getting to the free throw line, and finding ways to impact winning. But outside of PJ, you only had Tyrese Hunter with 14, but he was 4 for 13 from the floor, 2 for 8 from 3. He had 4 turnovers as well. And then the only other player in double figures was Danger, 10 points, 4 or 7 from the floor. He had 2 turnovers as well. But the rest of the team, Colby Rogers, I expected him to have a good game, considering East Carolina struggles with 3-point defense so much. He just didn't seem to have it today. He had a couple threes, but overall, it wasn't the performance that you need.
Yeah, Rogers had a good first half, but unfortunately, the foul trouble just caught up with him today.
Right. Yeah, foul trouble bit him in the butt. Speaking of fouls, thoughts on the refs today? Watching the game live on the stream, thought there were some questionable decisions. How did it look to you?
Again, not to take anything away from what East Carolina did or what Memphis did not do, but yeah, it certainly seemed like the officials were a bit more whistle happy than they likely should have been. Now, again, that does not excuse the mediocre performance that Memphis put out today. The reason this game was as close as it was because Memphis simply didn't show up. That's the reality. The referees are not at fault for that. But in saying that, the officials definitely didn't help Memphis in this case at all.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. It's not an excuse at all. But I do think there were some questionable decisions from the refs today. But you can't chalk this up to an issue with them. This is a game that Memphis, like we said many times, they should have won this one by a lot, and they just didn't. I see this comment from Lamont Trucking. Got to get better with the zone. So Lamont, I want to talk to Roman about this too, because I thought from my perspective, Memphis generated good looks against ECU's zone. They just weren't falling, and then in the second half, they just weren't taking care of the basketball and forcing bad passes. But what about you on the offensive side? Do you agree with me that you think that Memphis still generated good looks, shots were just not falling, or do you still think there's real concerns about how Memphis plays against the zone?
I think it's a little bit of both. I can definitely see Lamont's point here because Memphis did generate some really solid looks, especially from the three-point line. But in saying that, they looked uncomfortable just based off of the body language. Like you could see that they were still relatively uncomfortable attacking that zone defense that East Carolina kind of presented. And not many teams have really gone to zone against Memphis that often this year. And it was obviously, quite effective today. I don't know if you want to call it like a real concern moving forward, because again, this is still just one game in early January. There's still plenty of time to improve, offense against the zone. But, Memphis looked very uncomfortable trying to, beat it today for sure.
Yeah, I think there were, like I said, I think there were really good moments where Penny would call plays and the players would execute them really well. I think we saw some really good sets from Memphis against ECU zone. But what a zone does, especially against a team like Memphis, they're going to slow you down. It's going to force Memphis to play way more methodical in the half court. And that is still kind of it's still a kryptonite for this Memphis Tigers team, to slow them down, not let them get out in transition, not let them just play fast, free-flowing basketball. Forcing this team to play in the half court is still the way to beat the Memphis Tigers, no matter how well Penny's coaching or calling the plays. That's still how you beat them, because as you saw today, the turnovers still were generated at a way too high amount, even though Memphis wasn't playing that fast. I mean, to have 16 turnovers, that's over their average. That's not going to cut it. And as Wayne Kelly said, points off of turnovers, 24 points off turnovers for East Carolina. That's essentially the game right there. Yeah, again, Memphis wins, but without those points off of turnovers, this game isn't close. So again, I'll ask you, Roman, about the turnovers. I've asked you before, but is what to you is the solution to cutting down the turnovers?
I think it just comes down to discipline and better decision making. I know that's kind of the generic, meaty, coach speak like answer, but I really think that's what it comes down to. I'm not really seeing these teams like pressure Memphis heavily in a particular way. I'm not seeing much like from a schematic perspective that Memphis's opponents are doing. Most of these turnovers are boneheaded decisions that Memphis is making when they really don't have to. These are unforced errors that the Tigers are continuously making over and over again, and it's continuing to bite them where it hurts the most in these games against lesser competition. I don't know if it's like an overconfidence thing or an insecurity thing or whatever, but I think it all comes down to decision making and discipline at the end of the day with the turnovers for Memphis.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Again, I know it's generic and whatever, but that is at the end of the day the solution to lessening the turnovers. They just have to slow it down, be more cognizant of where people are at, and don't force passes. But I do like these comments in the chat from Carlos Smith here. Need to put D Harrison when they're running a zone. Too much dribbling for no reason, trying to find a one-on-one shot. Need a guard who can get to the second level of the defense. That guard, to me, well, I mean,
It's
PJ
Haggerty.
can get to a second level.
Haggerty.
Yeah, PJ can get to a second level, no question.
Yeah.
But I do want to shout out Dante Harris, because Dante, I thought he played with really good energy today. He made some really nice passes, and he's fast. He has a very quick first step, and he can get to that second level of a zone, second level of a defense pretty easily, just because of how quick and how little and shifty he is. So what did you see today from Dante Harris?
I just thought he was a real spark plug for Memphis. He did everything. He dished the ball. He compiled assists. He rebounded a little bit. I think he played good defense. He just quite simply showed effort. It seemed like he wanted to win this game. He cared, and he wasn't playing in a lackadaisical manner like so many of the Tigers were in my eyes.
Yeah.
He was definitely an invaluable piece to this win, even though it's not really going to show up on the stat sheet too much.
Yeah, good point. It's, statistically, Dante Harris
Tyrese Hunter and Nick Jourdain have arrived, so I believe it's
okay
to go.
All right, sounds good, Roman. Thank you, man.
All right, thank you.
Peace. Okay, that was Roman Cleary. I'll talk more about Dante Harris and about the rest of this game and look forward as well on the other side of this break. But as I said at the jump, I will be joined by Gabe Kuhn in just a few moments on the other side of this commercial. We'll see you then.
I think that Penny Hardaway has grown infinitely as a coach. He is more comfortable in his skin as a coach. He has made really, really strong decisions. Before the season started, he fired his coaching staff. He took a role player after giving him multiple chances to get back and get right with the team, told him to go away. Penny Hardaway made the decision for Tyrese Smith to not be on this team anymore.
He's better at dealing with bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then maybe it's not better at dealing with bullshit. He just cuts the bullshit out. He gets rid of it before he
put up
with
it. I think that is, on top of all the other things you said, is one of the main reasons that we are going to see a different team, because Penny Hardaway is a different coach.
Tune into On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
I told you that I think I need to write in and tell somebody that I retired.
You officially retired?
So for me, I think it's literally, I just want to let everybody know I'm making my announcement here on Night Court.
This is breaking stuff.
That I'm retired. I'm not coming back. I think I'm gonna hang up my sneakers. I've done as much as I can in this game that I can do. But I want to thank all my coaches, all my teammates, some of the GMs, no, the NBA is great to me and my family, man. Mm-hmm. So I would just like to say, oh wow, I just want to say thank you.
Oh no, tears! Oh my goodness. Can we go on, or should we just end it there?
Tune in to the Night Court podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
All right, what's going on? Welcome back to Tigers Live. I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Gabe Kuhn. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh, what's happening, brother? Francis, it's been a while, man, since last season.
Yes, it has. It's great to see you. Congrats on the new baby. That's
Appreciate it.
Fantastic. I haven't seen you since, so congratulations. How you doing? Hopefully not too many sleepless nights,
Oh, no, sleepless nights. Yeah, you can't avoid that, brother.
Yeah,
you can't avoid that. But it's been great, man. It's been great. I can't complain too much. It's awesome.
Very glad to hear that. Well, you can't complain too much about fatherhood. That's a plus. But you might have something to complain about after that Memphis Tigers performance. So, Gabe, just 50,000 foot level, man. What do you think about that game from the Tigers today?
Let me start positive, because I think there's a lot
Good.
more negative comments than positive today. But positive, Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty did a good job of putting that game away. That layup that Tyrese Hunter got driving down the lane to put them up by 4, keep the space, was phenomenal. And then PJ Haggerty down the stretch. I mean, when was the last time we had somebody on this Memphis team go 10 for 10 from the free throw line and just sort of close it out the way he does. Obviously, I've been talking about his shooting splits. He's 50% from the field, 45% from three, but 85% from the free throw line. And he's the guy who always has the ball in his hands at the end of games. That is such a nice thing to have. A guy who just has sort of ice in his veins in those big moments. And PJ Haggerty, I thought, brought that one home. I heard you and Roman talking about it, player of the game. That has become a common theme so far this year. Now, 50,000-foot view, these last two games, you have to be a little bit concerned. You're at home against inferior competition. I know North Texas is a lot better, and it's a drag of a game, so you could have sort of made that excuse. It's a different style. They're slower. But this ECU game, winning by 4, I didn't even think that was a possibility. They were 12.5-point favorites. East Carolina allows teams to shoot nearly 38% from three. Tigers shot 26. They don't do anything overly well on the defensive end, yet they turned the Tigers over 16 times and got 24 points off those turnovers. They're not a good offensive rebounding team, yet they got 13 offensive rebounds, and they had 14 second chance points in this game. I just thought it was a very, very poor performance in that second half. I mean, that's as well as I can put it. Now, I think a common theme is starting to show up the last 2 years. When you get the snow day game, first half always looks pretty good. You build an 18 to 20 point lead. It was 18 in this game, and then you start to let it go in the second half. I just thought in the second half they didn't have the same type of energy that they did in that first half coming out. And I think that was very reminiscent of the South Florida game last year, except they got the win, which is a positive thing. And then the final thing I do want to bring up, because I've seen a lot about this, and maybe we'll add to this conversation in just a moment, but a lot of people talking about them attacking zone defenses and the struggles they had, especially in the second half, attacking ECU's zone defense. I don't think that's been a problem most of the year. I just don't think I think you put it the right way. They weren't knocking down their open looks. I mean, they had 23 attempts from the three-point line. They just did not come through when it mattered. And that's how you beat a zone. You move the ball, skip passes, find an open look, usually a jumper, and they have to fall for you to be successful. But I thought in the first half, I mean, ECU was running the same zone. They were passing the ball relatively well, making things happen. It just didn't quite happen in the second half. And I don't know if it's a lack of energy or just a natural slowing down of things, but that was a concerning game. But you get out with the win, as opposed to last year in the same situation when you lost to South Florida and Penny blew up and told the media that this team didn't like each other and he couldn't run certain lineups out there because they didn't like each other. So I think this is a little bit more positive than where we were a year ago in this type of game.
I love the positivity, Gabe. You know me, try and be as positive as I can.
Yeah,
amongst the negativity, which I said earlier in the show last week after North Texas, I didn't think it was fair to have negative thoughts after that win, just because of the way North Texas plays. That's the second best team in the conference. All those things that we've talked about before. But if Memphis plays against East Carolina and escapes with a win, just like they did against North Texas, then there's reason for concern. So, like I said, I'm not going to flip-flop. I'm not going to change my mind. There is now real reasons for concern after that performance that you can convince me that the ceiling of this team is capped unless these issues don't change. And the issues, I think, as Timo puts in the chat here, turnovers, rebound, the assisted turnover rate, 3 teams this team has to fix. No real pressure, and I agree with you, Timo, as Roman brought up earlier, not really a lot of ball pressure, just lazy passes and taking care of the basketball when they drive. They have to figure this out or they'll disappoint in March. And Timo, that's really well said, and in my opinion. That's it. It's those are the biggest issues that this team needs to address. And if they're not addressed, if they're not fixed, then the ceiling of this team isn't nearly as high as we all thought the ceiling of this team was, 2 weeks ago, not that long ago. And so there are reasons for concern, but I appreciate your positivity, Gabe. It's still a win, and I'll take an ugly win over a beautiful loss any day of the week. They still got a win. PJ Haggerty was, like you said, phenomenal player of the game for all of us. But I also like your point about the zone too, because I've seen a lot of teams try and play zone against Memphis, and then Penny will draw up some good sets. They'll get some buckets, and then the team will switch out of that zone because they're realizing that Memphis is playing well against it. Well, today, Memphis generated the good looks. They just didn't hit shots.
Yeah.
You know, like I mentioned, the three-point shooting attempts. I thought they got good looks from three. Colby, Tyrese, PJ Carter, he had a couple open threes. They just didn't fall. But the big thing is the turnovers, Gabe. I'm just not I'm not sure what could be the solution to the turnovers other than the generic they got to value possessions. You know, is it the same thought for you, or is there some like
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Like today, the turnovers were just so disgusting. You know what I mean? Like they're dribbling off the foot, lazy passes, just not paying attention. Like I don't know. I mean, that's just locking in more. But I don't know how to measure that. But like that's not a measurable thing. So I don't know. They've had some really good games with assist to turnover ratio. They've had some really good games where they've been able to handle business without sort of dribbling it off their foot and looking that nasty. So hopefully that's something that can change. But I mean, I just have to say, like, the trend that has been created the past couple of years of being unbelievable in your non-con, playing really, really well against the best competition on your schedule, then getting to these nasty games and sort of playing them close, like that is just it's not a good look. And I think the biggest concern that comes in is you just start looking at metrics and everything else. This is certainly going to hurt their metrics. So I don't think it'll hurt them in the AP poll by any stretch of the imagination, but it'll definitely hurt them in KenPom, Bart Torvik, and net. And if you start dropping in the net with wins, you know what losses are going to do to you in conference. It's just every single game for the rest of the season is landmine, 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 landmine. And you have to avoid them at all costs. But to answer your question about the turnovers, I don't know. I think it's just an extra level of focus that they have got to get to, even when there's not people in the stands, even when they're playing a bad team, an inferior opponent, because I've seen them lock in. I've seen them, not make those mistakes in the biggest games of the year. They just have to carry that over and have that same intensity when they play the East Carolinas and the Rices and the Charlottes of the world.
Yeah. And you just hit the nail on the head on what is probably the most irritating part about all this. We know how good this team can be. We saw it in the non-con. We saw them beat the brakes off of FAU at FAU, a team that's still probably going to finish 4th or 5th in the conference, maybe 3rd if they start playing better ball. So we've seen them at their heights, but we are way too familiar with the lows that this team can have. Saw it last year, and I don't want to keep comparing this team to last year's team because it's a brand new, different ball club, and I don't want to keep doing it. But at the same time,
there's a little PTSD there that you can't get out of your head.
Of course, and like that's why the discussion is going to be rampant until Memphis, goes undefeated in conference play and then goes win the AAC tournament, and then everyone will stop with the last year, this year comparison. But as long as Memphis keeps playing these really heart-pounding, heart-stopping games against these poor teams in the conference, that discourse is going to continue. But on the bright side, I've seen talk about the chat. You mentioned it earlier, Gabe, to have closures like PJ Haggerty, Tyrese Hunter, who did a great job attacking that switch on CJ Walker. I appreciated also them not forcing a really bad shot. They pulled it back out. Musa came to set a ball screen, got the switch on CJ Walker, and Tyrese was like, well, I'm 6'1" and really quick. You're not, and I'm just going to attack you, go at your hip, and finish. And that's what he did. So, and that put the game away. And from my perspective, Gabe, and you can let me know if you think this is maybe too positive or too hyperbolic for me. I think Memphis is at the very least going to be in every single game they play in the AAC because they have such talented guard play who knows how to play in crunch time. Now, will they blow out every team in the AAC? Probably not, because we've seen the results at this point. But I don't think I would be shocked if you saw like Memphis against Tulsa last year, where they just let go of the rope, and just gave up, and they just looked like they didn't care anymore. I just don't think you'll see that from this team. Do you agree with me or no?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you because defensively they're just a better ball club altogether. But one thing that has been interesting to watch is it feels like this team sometimes has to get punched in the mouth before they realize, hey, let me lock in, let me make some things happen. You saw it at the end of the game, after ECU mounted their massive comeback. And then we've also seen it like multiple times in the early year. We were talking about the first halves. Being a drag, and then the second half they would pick it up and make some things happen. But yeah, I think they'll be in every game because they're more talented. They play good defense. They tend to pull the rope a little bit harder if they're struggling on the offensive end. I think they'll be in every game, but that's not considering the conference. That's not enough. I mean, I was talking about it on and shameless plug here, but it's on the same network here, believe at Bluff City Media Podcast Network. But on the Bluff Podcast releases every single Tuesday at noon. But we were looking at the Basketball Power Index according to ESPN, and the most likely they are to lose a game from this point on is March 2nd against UAB, and they still have a 74.2% chance to win that game. So these should be massive margins. That's what it should be. But we'll see how it all goes. It's just, I think we have the same conversation just about every year. We definitely had this conversation last year. It's just the intensity and you're locked in, the level of locked inness that you have to have in these conference games as compared to your non-con. It just has to stay at the same level, even though that's really hard to do because fans aren't showing up. You're playing terrible teams. You just have to find a way to treat every game the same.
Yeah, absolutely. That nail on the head. Looking at the box score I talk about with Roman 2, PJ with 25, Tyrese with 14, Danger with 10. Those are only three guys in double figures. PJ only guy above 20. Dante Harris, good minutes. I thought I liked what I saw from him. Spark plug. He had 4 assists, 2 steals. But for you, Gabe, who are you looking for outside of the big three? And I'll say outside the big three of today's game. Rodgers obviously is a very more than capable shooter, but outside of Danger, Hunter, and PJ, who are you looking for to be more consistent and provide more oomph to help Memphis down the stretch?
I got to be honest, Nick Jourdain. I have not, and I'm not saying he's like some unbelievable offensive player, but he's got some juice. He can play on the wing. He can get inside. He can make some things happen. He can get second chance points, and he has not been scoring very well as of late. Only 6 points against FAU, 3 points against North Texas, 4 points against ECU. He does some of the dirty work stuff that you really like to see, screen setting, getting rebounds, doing that type of thing. And he can be a good assist guy at times. But I want to see him, especially since he's in the starting lineup and he gets the extended minutes most of the time, you want to see him have a little bit more scoring pop. And if he can knock down a 3 or 2 along the way, that's a positive. And we know he's capable of that. So that's a guy I definitely want to see get going. Because I don't think just the way this team has gone, you're relying on too much out of your bench besides Dane Danger. Like you're not really, relying on that. And then Dante Harris would be a guy that I think has the ability to do that, but he just joined this team, so I'm not going to put that on his shoulders yet. Nick Jourdain's been around. He understands the surroundings. He knows what's expected of him in a Penny Hardaway offense. So I think that Nick Jourdain's the guy that I would point to as, okay, give us a little bit more. Pull your end. And then this team can cruise to a lot easier victories than 4 points over East Carolina.
Yeah, Timo agrees with you. I know we talked about this before. It's Nick Jourdain for me too. Like you said, does the dirty work, which is needed. He still had 3 blocks today. I thought he played solid defense throughout. I know CJ Walker had a great game, but he's still a talented player. But offensively, you just got to get a little more from him. And maybe that's him being a little more aggressive on the offensive side, taking those open threes instead of being hesitant to take an open 3 and just playing with a little more pop. I mean, I agree with you. He had that alley-oop slam, which is really cool. That was a really cool moment in the game.
Yeah.
But other than that, You just need a little more definitely more from Jordan. Cisse, he gave you 8 points, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks.
This is one of the, this is some of the best offensive basketball I've seen him play in his career.
Yeah.
So I don't expect that much out of him on the offensive end.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. This feels like, that's pretty much a good Cisse game. That's a good game for him on offense. You know, he didn't have any turnovers. He caught some really tough passes from Dante Harris that looked like bullets, and Cisse caught him. You know, we talk about his hands all the time, but he caught some bullet passes from Dante Harris, went up, finished strong. So, you know, that's kind of what you're going to get from Cisse. You know, no points from Okogie. You know, I still need excuse me. I think the addition of Dante Harris is so important because I don't think Okogie has to pop on offense to be a massive difference maker. I think he plays good, hard defense, and he can play with a little bit of pace, but he's definitely not a scorer. She's not that good of a shooter. So I think Dante Harris is going to be really big. PJ Carter, he only had 2 points, didn't 0 for 2 from 3, but obviously we know he's a good 3-point shooter. It just goes to the stuff we talked about before. The turnovers and the depth will determine the ceiling of this team. You know, if this team goes far in March, if they win the AAC tournament and they make a run in March, it's going to be because they limited turnovers and you got steady contribution outside of Danger, Haggerty, and Hunter. And I include the contribution from Colby Rogers too, because again, we know he's a sniper, but he needs to be a more consistent offense, provide a little bit more than just shooting.
It's almost every 4th game he's going to pop. You know, that's sort of what Colby Rogers has shown us. Now he'll knock down his threes for the most part, usually the most high percentage guy. But let's just date this back to the Clemson game: 22, then Virginia 3, then Mississippi State 2, then Ole Miss 28, then 11, 9. Like, you know, I want to see him in double figures a lot more often, a lot more consistently, because he is a very capable. And I know you talk about him just being a sniper from the 3-point line. I think he's a little more talented offensively than that. Like, I think he can get to his spots in the mid range, make some things happen. I think he's a lot more athletic than we give credit for. I think he's a guy who needs to pop a lot more often than every 4th game. Quick sidebar though. I have to do a quick sidebar, and this is more on the funny side. I just can't believe CJ Walker's still playing damn college basketball. Good God, man. Is it 6 years or 5 years?
I heard 6 years on the podcast. That's what I heard. I heard 6 years.
Lord, man. This guy has been everywhere. And he's a former 5-star, I believe, right?
Yeah. Former 5-star.
So Oregon to UCF to ECU for his final year. My gosh. And he plays decent ball. Like he's played decent ball everywhere he's been. He's never lived up to that 5-star hype, but it just amazes me he's still playing college basketball. Like seeing him out there today just blew my mind.
I know. And the scene with the hair and the smiley face kind of looked like Dennis Rodman out there. You know, I haven't seen CJ Walker play basketball in a while. So I didn't know that he got that hairdo with a smiley face in the back. Like, oh, okay, CJ. Like that's a choice, you know. That's a choice that he made for his look. Cognizant decision. But I was gonna say the same thing. He's been playing ball for a while, for a very long time. Kind of just like that's kind of the MO of college basketball, right? In the day and age of transfer portal and all the waivers and everything, you just got a lot of dudes who are gonna play for a long time. But he gave him fits. You know, CJ was great today. 23 points. 1 block, 1 steal. I mean, he was really good. He attacked the bigs. He played aggressive going to the rim. You know, it kind of leads to another question that I'll ask you as well. The Penny Hardaway's been vocal, especially after Mississippi State, about the bigs being soft. Jordan, Cisse, Danger, getting out rebounded 40-35 against East Carolina. I mean, come on, man. That's not good. Like that can't be the case. So do you have concerns about our bigs on like the toughness level? And I think it's a fair question to ask given what we've seen so far.
There's a couple of things that gave me a lot of concern going into the season, and one of them was the front court and the depth.
Yeah.
And I've always been concerned about this front court. Now they've played really well. so far this year. But they've definitely had some lows so far. And Musa, I know he had 8 points. I know he's having a decent offensive year as compared to what he's been able to do in college basketball in the past. But 4 rebounds in a game, just in 19, if you get to 19 or 20 minutes and you're Musa Cisse, 7-foot athletic as he is, supposed to be this physical presence, defensive type player, he's got to be a lot more active and getting rebounds. So yeah, there's a little bit of concern, but I with all of these things, I'm just going to reserve a benefit of the doubt for this team for now. I'm going to reserve that, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But there's another thing, and I'm going to pull this up because I think this is interesting from Wayne. He said, I think we should admit the Tiger offense is unpredictable overall. And isn't it kind of funny? Going into the year, we thought it would be, right? Yeah. We thought it would be. And it hasn't been. Like, offensively, they've been able to knock down their three-point shots. They've been one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. There's been a consistency to it. But I agree with you. It is unpredictable, but that's something I did kind of foresee coming into the season. There was a lot of questions about it. They've just sort of shot their mark when it comes to our expectations. So now at this point, it's coming back into the fold, that conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point by you and by Coach Kelly there. I remember after Maui, not after Maui, after Memphis beat Michigan State, I remember saying on this show that if they beat Auburn and they win the Maui Invitational, I'm going to be up here and it's going to be hard to bring me down from my super high pedestal of thoughts on this team. Then they obviously get blown out against Auburn, but then they have that 4-game stretch. They go 3-1, beat Clemson, beat Ole Miss, beat Virginia on the road, and you're now thinking to yourself, okay, is this team what heights can they reach? But then after that, after the conversation about the heights they can reach, well, they blow out FAU, but then they have these 2 performances, and you're now back to the lulls of the discussions and wondering what this team can be and should we temper our expectations, and it's a roller coaster. Last season was an insane roller coaster, epic highs and just ridiculously low lows. Right now, knock on wood, knock on whatever, we haven't hit the depths of that low yet. So I'm right with you, Gabe. We should still save some criticism, until those moments happen. But go ahead, please.
I would say so far this season is a normal roller coaster. The ups and downs, the drops. Last year was kind of the. You ever seen one of those rides like the Superman at Six Flags St. Louis where it's the big pole and they just drop straight down? That's what last year was. That's what last year was. But this year's a little bit more, up and down. But I think, again, there are worse things in the world than where they're at right now, considering their performances the last 2 games. But something has to change, or they're going to take some uncharacteristic, nasty losses in conference. And what I was talking on my show this week to David Cobb from CBS Sports, who covers college basketball for them. And I basically asked him, so what, a loss in the AAC, if it's not to North Texas or FAU, what does that mean for this team? And he said, whether home or road, just based on where the net rankings are, he said that's like a full seed line. One loss is basically a full seed line, and you just can't afford to take those. You can't afford to take 2 or 3 losses. You want to stay sort of you look at bracketology, they're in that 4 or 5 range. You do not want to end up back in that sort of 8-9 game or even a 7-10. You don't want to end up playing 1 or 2 seeds at this point or by that point in the season. So just win at all costs, man, because if you lose to any of these conference opponents, that could mean a whole seed down by the time they get to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I fully agree. As Memphis native says here, bottom line is we got to win. Any team can be beat on any given night. I don't care what team it is. Just keep winning ball games is what matters. Yeah, 100%. Man, it's just keep winning games. Again, I said it before. I'll say it till I'm blue. I will take an ugly win over a beautiful loss every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. Gabe. I'll take it, man.
Francis, I agree. I fully agree. But doesn't that sound like the conversation last year?
Yes.
Like everybody's having the metrics conversations.
Yeah.
Like the people that were really trying to pay attention to it. And then most people, while they were still number 8 to 10 in the AP poll or whatever, just keep winning and everything will handle itself. But you see, when you let those things sort of pass without, calling them out or mentioning them, they can come back to bite you. But like that I hate how reminiscent that is.
I know,
of last year's conversation around the same time. But again, like you said, I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to keep sitting here and comparing this year to last year, because I think this team is completely different. They're made up of different pieces. I think you have a true leader in PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter as well. I think your defensive identity is definitely as high as possible. But that whole bottom line, just keep winning conversation is exactly the conversation we had last year before everything spiraled out of control.
Yeah. Now I can already hear the people, Gabe, who heard just what you just said. I can already hear him saying, well, if this is a different team, who's the constant? It's Penny Hardaway, and now we're having the same issues with a Penny-led team. I can already hear those keyboard warriors typing that same thing out. I don't think what's happened so far is on Penny Hardaway. I think that's totally unfair to state that this team's issues with the effort coming out in the second half. I don't think that's on Penny Hardaway. I don't think Penny's done a bad job running this team, managing this team, calling plays. I don't think he's done a bad job at all. He's done a good job with his lineups. He's done a good job calling out of timeout plays. I think Penny's done a really good job this year, period. So I just wanted to get that out before, well, who's the constant if this is a different team? Penny Hardaway's the constant. Get that out of here.
Yeah, that's not where I was trying to go with that. I mean, at the end of the day, missed shots, dribbling it off your foot, uncharacteristic turnovers, that's not Penny Hardaway. He can draw up. He could be freaking, I don't know. I mean, he could be
Greg Popovich.
Yeah, he could be Coach K. And his players could still do that. So I don't think that's I don't think it's fair to go after Penny and say, oh, well, he's a constant. And this once they get into conference play, this keeps happening. No, I think he's done a whole lot better. And I will say, I mean, I said this about the North Texas game. That team last year probably loses both of these games.
Yeah.
Considering the way that they just played out. Like I feel like they would fold like a cheap lawn chair in these moments. But this team figures it out, rallies the troops, and has made it happen so far.
Yep. Well said, Gabe. So I'll put you on the spot just like I put Xavier Dotson on the spot last time on Tigers Live. Give me your ceiling prediction for this team. Where do you think they'll finish? Hopefully, I hope I have you on before the season ends. But where are you thinking right now this team will finish when it's all said and done in March? Hell, maybe in April. That probably a crapshoot. But right now, where do you think this team finishes up?
All right, ceiling seed. I think they could get themselves to a 4 if they just continue winning. We'll see how that all works out. That's my ceiling for the NCAA tournament. I got to be honest, considering what they're playing in the American Athletic Conference, like there's not a redeeming quality about this conference this year.
No.
Like last year, at least you had FAU, North Texas still fine, UAB pretty good. You don't have that at all this year. Like there's just nobody outside of Memphis. So I think the floor you're looking at, if they lose a few games along the way or lose just about as many games as I could even realistically project them losing, I think they would fall to like an 8 seed. But I think they're in a good spot regardless of the way these last 2 games have gone. I think ceiling 4 seed, floor about 8 seed. And then like as far as losses in conference, I think that's the interesting conversation to have. I think the most that that 8 seed line would be like 5 losses. And then that 4 seed, 5 seed line would be around 2 or 3 losses. And we'll see how it plays out. Francis.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you. I think a 4 seed is a very fair ceiling to have. I just hope that we come to some point this season where we can just stop the incessant, constant conversations about turnovers and the lackadaisical efforts. I really hope, next game, looking ahead, Memphis now they go on the road at Temple on the 16th, at Charlotte on the 19th. I would love to come back from those 2 road games, come home against Wichita State on the 23rd, and have Memphis blow them out. That would just make me so happy, just to kind of set things straight, take care of business, and they're a good team on the road, So I'm hoping. Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, I'm just not. I don't understand the way these first 3 games have gone. I mean, road basketball's hard in college basketball. We all know that. And their lone win where they just absolutely wiped the floor with somebody was on the road, an FAU 28-point win. Then they come home and have their struggles. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But here's to hoping that they continue to be good on the road, because that is a very positive, good thing to have and to be as a college basketball team. Absolutely.
To kind of give a response about why there are issues in quotes at home, it's probably, the pressure maybe, getting to this team, and they know that they lose a game at home in front of this crowd, in front of this city who pulls for this team. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. If they lose this game today, I already know what the reaction was going to be. It was going to be like, oh, hell just broke loose. And that's just kind of how it goes, for the Memphis Tigers in this city with the pressure that they have. But also on the flip side is they got to embrace that pressure. This team loves the Memphis Tigers. We love Tiger basketball, and they have to embrace that they have a fan base that cares about this team and just wants them to succeed. That's it. So hopefully they can get their head on straight, lock in, take care of the basketball, and start proving to the city, to all Tigers fans, hell, to their own coaching staff, that they can get the job done and play hard, good basketball. So we'll see. A lot of basketball left this season, lots of games to go. This season is far from over. They have a lot of time to improve, a lot of time to get better and fix their issues. But Gabe, thank you so much, man, for coming on. You're awesome. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. Weekdays, Monday through Friday, 92.9 ESPN, 4 to 7. You can find that on the Odyssey app, odyssey.com, or you can just, go to your radio dial, 92.9 FM or 680 AM. Tuesday, I have my podcast releasing every single Tuesday at noon on The Bluff with Christian Fowler and also our guy Kenny Stubblefield. So check out all that and follow me on X or Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it, at G_Kuhn71, KUHN.
Awesome. Yep. Y'all go find Gabe. He's the man, one of the best in Memphis. So to everybody tuning into Tigers Live, thank you so much. Subscribe to Bluff City Media, like Tigers Live. We put out amazing content, the shows that we put out, the live streams, the everything, we got y'all covered. Every sport, top to bottom, we got y'all covered. So again, to everybody tuning into Tigers Live, I'm Francis Carlota. That's Gabe Kuhn. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tigers Live. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.